So the goals for today, ultimately impact, and there's no question that really is the key word here. Paths for getting there, very specifically, we hope that this workshop will increase the mutual understanding of what engineering societies are and do and can do, and what else is happening in engineering education today, what colleges of engineering education and programs in engineering of education are doing to understand better. If we want to say we want to make change, let's understand who's doing what and where are the opportunities, and use that. We hope to then catalyze a lot of discussions about where are the change opportunities. As part of that, sharing information, but most importantly, ideas and insights between and among the engineering societies, because building a larger collaboration, larger partnerships to say together we can tackle bigger problems and we can think about systemically changing. And so clearly a focus on collaboration, and so we hope lots and lots of conversations among all of you. We hope there will be outcomes and follow-up activities from this, and I will just give you a heads up now at the end of the workshop, and we will get these cards out early enough so that you can be thinking about this as we go along. But one of the things we're going to ask everybody who's participating to do is you're going to have two cards. One is a postcard. One will be something you get to keep, to write down your action items. An action item that's saying, you know what, because of what I have done here, the ideas I've gained here, within 3 weeks, I'm going to take the first step to doing something to start affecting change. And then 6 months, we're not going to try to track you down in 3 weeks. The 3 weeks is to make sure that too much time doesn't go by, that some of the energy, the inspiration that you get here, you actually have a next step that can happen quickly. Because once you've done that, then saying, oh yeah, and over the next 6 months, I'm going to get this bigger step done. But you will get a reminder card. The postcard will be a reminder that you will receive in 6 months. And so we're looking not only to have a great workshop, but also to have outcomes spearheaded by all of you. The other heads up is that there will be an evaluation of the workshop, and this is really a key part of the process. So you will be contacted by Karen Peterman by email to complete a brief survey following the workshop, and so we also hope that you will participate in that. Okay, so those are things that are off after this is over. So this project, you heard from Elliot that NSF is understanding how engineering societies fit into this ecosystem. And in looking at your chart, I finally concluded that I think maybe the reason the blue oval was the biggest one is because it had the most words in it. Although if you want to interpret it to say a reflection of this is really important. And so we can put both meanings on that very large blue oval, and there really is an opportunity here to do good things. So we're hoping to accomplish two goals. First, help increase the understanding of the extent and nature. You know, what's the state now? What is the extent and nature of society's past and current efforts to improve undergraduate engineering education? But with that as a foundation, then to provide an opportunity for societies to share information about current and planned efforts, to learn about trends and needs in undergraduate education, to explore ideas on how societies can play a more effective role and a role with higher impact, and to consider how collaboration and cooperation and to be a vehicle for helping to facilitate that. So the project has two phases. Proctor referred to this. The first phase was the background and information gathering, comprised of a literature search, analysis of society's websites, surveys and interviews on activities to do this catalog of what's happening now. And I want to thank all of you who participated in completing those surveys and participating in the interviews. And so this workshop is the kickoff of the second phase. We will, following this, also have regional sessions. For additional, how do we build on what happened here? Just a note on who is here. Obviously, a lot of representatives, volunteers, and staff from engineering societies, both discipline-focused societies, so ASME, ASCE, so discipline society people. People, you think you're in a discipline, okay. And also affinity societies, built not so much around a discipline, but around some identity, a portion of identity. So SWE and NACME, so representatives from those, okay. And then we obviously have other people here, and we have some people who do both. There are academics here, members of the PROD program committee, and representatives from some industry as well. One of the most obvious, and I'm going to reiterate this, one of the most obvious points of connection between societies, especially in particular the discipline societies, and curricula and colleges of engineering is through accreditation. It is an important role, and in a parallel undertaking, NAE, in fact, held a workshop last year focused on the new ABET criteria. Proceedings of that workshop are available on the National Academy's press website. For the purposes of this workshop, we're going to take ABET for granted. There's lots can be said about it, and we can all go off and talk about it for months. But ABET is a well-known mechanism of engagement, and so our goal really is to look beyond ABET. And I urge you to think, we're not trying to say how do we this. There have been work to say how can we work better with ABET. What else can we be doing? So to set the stage, some highlights from. There we go. The literature review. And again, there's more detail about this that will be forthcoming, but just a high-level summary of where are we now. So there's limited formal documentation of the influence of engineering societies in engineering education. There are a few documented examples of very specific influence. ASCE's, the American Society of Civil Engineers, Body of Knowledge Project is certainly an outstanding example of this. ABET in the literature is clearly cited as an important mechanism. The literature also reflects that there are some coverage, including student chapters, the role of societies in promoting diversity, informal education activities such as community service projects. And the literature review will be available next month on the project website. From the web analysis, and this was an analysis of 124 websites associated with engineering organizations and societies. Almost all of the engineering organizations have some form of direct engagement with students. Engagement with students isn't necessarily engagement with engineering education, but engagement with students mainly through student membership and student chapters. 25% roughly offer some form of financial assistance, travel grants to meetings, other kinds of student support, some scholarship support. More than 3/4 of the societies have some form of indirect engagement through technical publications, standards, educational research articles, and briefs. And so some of the things that I would characterize perhaps as the bread and butter of a lot of the professional societies. There's little explicit evidence, though, on the society web pages of how these activities directly impact student retention in engineering, or the effectiveness of the society's engagement. So if we ask the question, how is this contributing to the formation of engineers, not documented via what is posted on the society's websites. And again, there'll be a full analysis, and it'll be posted within the next month on the project website. The survey and the interviews, a lot of information And again, thank you for participating. You have a summary of this in the background information that you received when you registered for the workshop. And I believe, so the survey and the interviews were conducted by Inverness Research, working with this project. And I believe that Jennifer Helms from Inverness is on the phone. Jennifer, you're there? Carl's nodding, so I think Jennifer's there.
Sure.
Hi.
Yes, I'm here. Hello. Hi.
And so I'm going to give a quick summary. We're going to pause. We're not going to solve any of these problems in this session. This is the kickoff session. This is the stage setting. But if you have questions or clarification, Jen's here to help make sure that if, as you move forward, you do feel you understand what came out of this survey and interview stage of the project. So there are 58 responses out of 121 societies contacted, and there were 30 follow-up interviews conducted. Overall, engineering or engineering-related societies are clearly engaged in a range of education activities that target a wide range of audiences. And so if we look at goals and audiences and kinds of activities, the space is covered across these. Nearly every category of goal is represented in the work of the societies in the study example. For example, leadership development, increasing diversity, student retention. These are goals, and there are not by each society, but across this wide range. Somebody is working towards almost any goal you could imagine. The same is true for types of activities: student chapters, faculty development, certifications, things like that. And also across audiences, our focus is undergraduate students, but also industry, government agencies, pre-university. Audiences are widely covered through the activities across the societies. All of the societies surveyed are primarily concerned with the professional development and the continuing education of their members. Okay. Vast majority of societies are focused on creating greater awareness of, making the case for the importance of engineering or a particular discipline within engineering, but most of the efforts at dissemination are aimed at their own membership. So we want people to know about this. Who are we talking to? Okay. Societies rate evaluation and assessment of their educational activities is important, but not a lot of resources are dedicated to this undertaking. I will, just an aside note, my most recent work with IEEE has actually not been with the IEEE proper. I just finished a term as 5 years as president of the IEEE Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of the IEEE, and we've spent the past 5 years trying to understand how good can we get at this. And when you talk about philanthropy and fundraising, the question is, you need a story. You need to identify people who will resonate with that story. You use that story to encourage philanthropic support. The support feeds back into the activity. It gets even better, which encourages, and you're trying for this virtuous spiral of creating compelling stories. But from a development point of view and talking to donors, you've actually got to be able to say, this is a great story, let me tell you what it's doing. You have to be able to talk about the impact. You have to be able to say something about why will this make a difference and why will your investment in this make a difference. And we ran smack into this wall about we do lots of stuff. We don't really assess it very much. And so it's important, and everyone across the surveys, this is important. We don't do it terribly well. To date, most of the assessment really means counting participants. There's more. There can be more to be said about this. And so societies would like to evaluate the impact of their programs in more coherent, rigorous, and longitudinal ways. And you will see that, in fact, one of the plenaries here is about assessment, because this was identified so strongly as something of interest in knowing more about how to do it and doing better. The majority of the societies note that they face some kind of barrier in their engineering education work. Most common barriers, curricula, communication challenges, challenges with changing curricula, both with the fact that they're changing but also influencing the change of curricula, incentives for change, also issues related to time, resources, and funding. A sub-analysis revealed that the affinity societies are more apt to report facing barriers than the discipline-focused societies. Engineering education at the undergraduate level is not a top priority for all societies, but it does rank highly across many. Many societies would like to do more to address the undergraduate engineering education. According to breaking this down by size of society, and to what extent do societies of various sizes rank undergraduate students as a high priority audience for their education efforts. It is 50% of the small and medium-sized societies, 65% of the large societies, and 83% of the extra-large societies. Societies have some collaborations, but again say that a lot of barriers exist, would like to collaborate more, and we think that this workshop is an opportunity squarely to say, okay, what does that look like? Societies' efforts to disseminate their practices are generally limited to their own membership via conferences, newsletters, meetings, and that said, they're interested in sharing their practices beyond their own membership. And a majority of societies, 85% through the survey, consider themselves leaders in this field. However, half the societies rated their overall capacity to plan and implement education work as either low or some. So we're leaders in the field, but capacity to do very much below average compared to other things that happen in the context of societies. 38% reported that their capacity is high, 12% rated it as very high. And finally, societies do report a range of gaps in engineering education that could be addressed by the field, including pre-college education, faculty preparation for teaching, design education, two-year preparation programs. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to ask Jen first. Jen, are there things you would like to add to that high-level overview?
You know, I think you did a really terrific job there. I guess I would just want to emphasize a couple of things. One is the first point you made, which is that the breadth of goals, activities, and audiences that is covered here and represented in the sample, there's just a lot of knowledge and experience out there, which is, I think, a really exciting foundation and place to start. And then with respect to the partnering, more than 3/4 of our sample are already partnering with outside agencies, and close to 90% of those surveyed said that at least to some extent they're partnering or collaborating with other societies. So there is, even though there's maybe not as much going on as we would like, there's certainly a lot of capacity and desire to engage in partnerships out there and opportunities to learn how these partnerships and collaborations are established and sustained. I guess that's really all I would add. I think it was a fascinating study, and we're just very happy to be able to contribute a little bit to this great work that you're all doing.
Dave, thank you. I'm going to pause here. Please stay on the line to ask. Sure. Not questions about how can we do this better, because we're going to have lots of opportunities, but are there questions of clarification that you would like Jen to elaborate on? Yeah.
Were honor societies included in the survey? So, for example, probably the PIE's law, engineering society.
I'm sorry. You know what? Jen probably can't hear you. I'm forgetting to remind you. If you have a question, there are microphones. Or you're closer. You can come borrow this one. We have 3 microphones, a shareable one up here and one on either side.
Okay, I was just wondering if honor societies were included because, for example, Tabe de Pai is the largest engineering society in the world, I believe.
Yes.
And it besides providing a goal for accomplishment by students, it also tries to foster a spirit of liberal culture. That's in their charge.
Good. Yes, and in fact, that society was on the list, and they did complete the survey. Although I'm not sure about any others, and that the list of societies was prepared on the NAE's and so I'm not positive about who was always on the invite list. I just know who returned a survey. But yes, I will particular.
And I will note that in some cases, in a discipline, the Honor Society is embedded in the professional society. So several years ago now, Eta Kappa Nu merged with the IEEE, so it's IEEE Eta Kappa Nu, and so there are also some structures like that. But okay, good question. Other questions for clarification that would help you feel, okay, Mike right behind you.
I apologize if this was already noted, but roughly how many professional societies are there that could have been considered as part of the study? Is there an idea of the scope or the number that were actually approached as opposed to?
It is the 100. I believe the 121 up there was an attempt at a complete compendium. Is that right, Jen?
That is correct. And it's interesting because in the interviews, we did 30 follow-up interviews with about 30 societies, and several times I did hear this, well, we're not really an engineering society, or we have engineers as members, but it's not our top or only priority, and that kind of thing. So it is a very interesting question of sort of who is in this landscape, and then from that, what do they feel is their connection to engineering education? But we took a very broad swath there. Yeah.
So, Elliot.
Jen, who tended to fill out, to complete the surveys within the societies? What role did the person have?
Very good question. Mostly executive directors and presidents. And then after that, CEOs, a few of those. And then in the summary, there's kind of the list of the types of folks. So there was a chair of board of directors, a staff officer, director of education, director of university programs, general manager, et cetera, et cetera. They're listed, I think, in the summary. But we did send, in some cases, more than one invitation out to one society and ask them to decide among themselves who would be the best person to fill out the survey. But we did target folks at the top in hopes that they would either fill it out themselves if they felt they had the background for it, or send the invitation along to somebody in the society that would be better suited to complete the survey.
I will also just note in the process of this, there actually was a pilot survey that went out to a smaller group, very deliberately, partly with the intent of understanding, are we sending it to the right people, and then to have a small group to work with to say, help figure out who should get this and how to get it into the hands of appropriate people.
Yes.
I was wondering if there is a student voice in this survey. Do we have any input from the students in this?
No, thank you for reminding me. I meant to say that at the outset, that this was really just looking at the society side of things to get a sense of what is out there, what folks are doing, but we do not have the education perspective on the same types of questions. And I will also add that another thing I meant to say at the beginning, which is that this survey, as you can see, is looking beyond undergraduate education. In other words, we really are looking at the spectrum of education in the survey.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Amy Freeman, Penn State. Question, did any of the societies that might have represented women or underrepresented populations, were their responses similar to all other societies? Or, I guess my real question, were there any outliers? And if so, who were they and in what areas? Were there any that just didn't mix with the trends of most of the others?
We did do a sub-analysis of the discipline-focused societies and affinity societies, and there were a couple of interesting, statistically significant differences. I will say that I wouldn't call them outliers, but I would say that, for example, let's see here, I'm just looking to see in there was a difference, like Leah pointed out, in terms of barriers, that those who, the affinity societies are more apt to face barriers and different kinds of barriers. They had different kinds of goals, but I wouldn't say there was any particular society that stood out with respect to any of the trends that we were seeing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Abby Lamoka, National Science Foundation. Do you know, on average, what percentage of the operational budget of a society, engineering society, comes from their membership contributions? And could this be a factor in determining the fact that they cater primarily to their members?
Yeah, we didn't ask about budget that comes from members. We did, of course, ask about their approximate annual budget for education, what they set aside for education, and a third of the respondents weren't sure, didn't know, and then the numbers kind of ranged anywhere from 10,000 to a very large portion of the budget. So, but I don't know if that's a factor, and that's an interesting question.
Okay, we're gonna.
Let me just note that the full analysis of the survey and the interviews are up on the project website. So if you want to see more detail, you can go there, and it has some of the breakdowns.
Okay, we're getting ready to move to the next phase. So let me just summarize. Okay. We talked about goals at the beginning. Let me frame this in terms of big questions that we're hoping to answer, to keep in mind. So how can societies play a more effective role in the education of undergraduates? And when we talk about more effective role, I'm going to turn again to Elliot's emphasis on the goal being impact. And if you listen to some of the words, revolutionizing engineering departments, the RED program, so words like revolutionizing, transforming. Oops, I'm not close enough to the mic. Okay, got it. I'm just standing back and relaxing up here too much. That we want to move ahead, and the immediate step, certainly not the 3-week step, and probably not even the 6-month step, is going to fall into that category of revolutionizing or transforming, but it will be planting the seeds and getting there. So with this focus on impact, more effective role in the education of undergraduates. Second, how can societies and academic institutions better understand each other? Because aligning is also one of the ways to increase impact. And on very practical sense, how can collaborations and partnerships take place? Because this is a group of an incredible range of people with commitment in this area. So how do we foster and how do those collaborations and partnerships take place? So quick outline for today.